Welcome to the webinar. Today's topic is how to correct amounts to disperse in Vision or MyUnity. Amounts to disperse show up on your payment logs from time to time, and they do need to be corrected. If they are left on your payment log, then your cash will not balance. Here's our payment log for March for our health center. And we do have an amount to disperse. As you can see on the right-hand side, it's $109,000. And this is making our check amount total not match our actual cash deposits. The first thing you need to do is determine where the amount to disperse is coming from. And as I scroll up my payments log, I can see that there are several. There's one here. I have another one here. And there's one at the top. The next step is to determine why that amount is there. So our first one we're going to look at is Anita Anteater. And she has left a $90,000 amount to disperse. Here I can see her check amount with her check number and date. And then here it shows the AR amount, which is how much of this check was applied. So when I look at the check amount, it is $100,678.87. But looking at the check distributions, that is how much was applied to her account, it was only $10,678.87. Since there's a discrepancy between the check amount and the AR amount, that's what creates the amount to disperse. It's saying that this check was not fully dispersed since only $10,000 of it was applied to her AR. There's this $90,000 amount remaining. So you would need to determine what is the correct amount of the check. Now you can assume that it was probably not $100,000, so the $10,000 is probably correct. But still, it's a good idea to check your records and make sure of what this check amount was. So I check my records and discover that the true check amount was $10,678.87. So someone typed an extra zero when they were entering the check amount. I need to correct this check amount. In this case, I do not need to remove the check in order to correct it. The correct amount has been distributed to the resident. It's only the check amount that is wrong. To pull up a check and correct a check amount, we need to use payment entry, and we're going to have to pull up that check using the SIS number. The SIS number is in the first column to the left of your payments log, and you can just highlight that number and then copy it to place it on your clipboard, or you can write it down. Then I'm going to go into Vision, and I'm going to open a payment batch. You can use either the payment checks format or the payment line entry application to pull up the check and correct it. I'm going to use the payment line entry application. To pull up a check, I'm going to go to where it says check number and click on the question mark. That opens up the payment checks search. I always need to take out these two check marks in the little boxes, and then I can paste in the check SIS number. When you copy and paste the check SIS number, there's always an extra space on the end of that check number, and you need to backspace that out. Otherwise, it will not find your check. I'm going to click Search. Here's my check for $100,000. I'm going to select it, and that fills in the check information. So here I can see the check date, the check number, and the check amount. The only thing I need to correct is the actual check amount. So I'm going to put my cursor here and back out the extra zero, making it 10,000 instead of 100,000. Then I click Submit in order to save the change that I made. Now I don't need to post this payment because it's already posted. All I did was correct the check amount. So now I can just delete this batch. I'm going to close out, select my batch, delete. I'm going to run a new payment log to make sure that that correction worked. Here is my new payment log. And if we take a look at Anita, we can see that there's no longer any amount to disperse. Her check is still applied to her AR, and the check amount is now the $10,000 instead of $100,000. But we still had some other ones that needed to be corrected. So I'm going to scroll down to my next amount to disperse, this $10,000. And this is part of a Medicare check. So I can see that this Medicare check has been applied to various people, but the amount that was applied, the AR amount, was only $34,000 and some. When I take a look at the check amount is $44,000 and some, leaving this $10,000 amount still to be dispersed. So I would need to pull up this Medicare remit and review it to determine, is the check amount correct and are the disbursements correct? So I pull my remit, check off each person, and each person here has the correct amount. However, I missed one of the people that this check should have been posted to, and her payment amount is this $10,000 plus. The person that I should have applied the check to that I missed was Carol Brady. Again, I don't need to remove this check. It has been applied correctly to these other residents. It's just that there's still part of it that needs to be applied. So once again, I'm going to make a note of this check sys number, and I'm going to open a new payment batch. Since this is a Medicare check, I need to use my payment checks format. So I've switched to that format, and I now need to pull up my check. I'm going to click on the question mark. Remember, you take out those two check marks in the boxes. Enter your check sys number, backspace out that extra space, and click search. Now it's bringing up my check for $44,000. I'm going to select it, and the check amount is filled in. So here you can see the check number with the EFT amount, or the EFT number, the date received, and the check amount of $44,000. If you look over to the right here, you can see the net amount left of the check is $10,000 plus, which is the amount that I need to apply to Carol Brady. So now I'm going to click Select Save Check, and then I'm going to apply the remainder of this check to Carol Brady. Now her payment is for January, so I'm going to enter January transaction date. I'm going to select my payer type, which is Medicare A, summarize by month, and then I'm going to click Retrieve AR. That's going to bring up all residents who had a balance for January. There's Carol Brady. Here is her balance. Just put a check mark there to apply the payment. She has a remainder, which is the sequestration. I'm going to enter that under contractual. Now up at the top, you can see that the check amount and net amount left, the net amount left is now 0. That's what you want to see. In Vision, anytime you're applying payments, this net amount left should always be zero. There's not ever any occasions when it should not be zero. I want to make sure that I submit that. This time, since I'm applying this check to AR, I do need to review it and post it just like I normally would. So I'm going to click Edit Payments, View Report. If everything looks good, then I'm going to post it. Looking at this report, you can see it does show you the check amount here, but the amount of this batch is only the amount that I'm applying to Carol Brady. That's correct, so I'm going to post it. View Payment Journal, and I would print this for my records. To run a new payments log to make sure that my correction went through. Here is my new payment log. And if I scroll down to that Medicare check, here was my Medicare check for $44,000. I can see that there's Carol Brady showing up with the $10,000 now. And my amount to disburse is nothing. So this check has been corrected. We had one more scenario with an amount to disburse, and that is this $9,000 here. So when I take a look at this, I see that here's Kit and Caboodle with a $9,000 check. But when I look at the AR, the $9,000 was applied and then it was removed. That means that someone went into adjustments and removed the check from Kit and Caboodle, but did not zero the check out. So when you remove a payment in Vision, it's always a two-step process. You remove the check using the adjustment screen, and then you have to zero that check out. Otherwise, the check remains on your log, and it's part of your total cash, which will make your cash off and gives you an amount to disburse. The question is, why was this payment removed? If I look through my payment log, I can see that Kit and Caboodle had a payment up here for the same amount, $93.91.91. 3/1. It's the same date, 3/1. Check number 4711, check number 4711. So odds are that this is a duplicate payment. I would want to check my payment records and make sure that she didn't actually pay two checks on the same day for the same amount. And so I checked my records, and true enough, this was a duplicate entry. So someone caught that it was a duplicate and removed the payment off of Kit and Caboodle's account, but the check still needs to be zeroed out in order to fully get rid of the duplicate payment. It's already been removed off the account, so I don't need to remove the check. I'm just going to make a note of the check sys number, and I'm going to go in and zero this check out. Once again, I'm going to open a new batch. You can use either payment checks or payment line entry. Either one will give you access to correct the check. Just click on the question mark, take out the check marks, paste, backspace, search, select the check. Now, since this was a duplicate payment that was removed, I now want to change this check amount to 0 and click Submit. I don't want to post this payment. All I'm going to do is delete the batch. I can close this window, select my batch, delete batch. Now I'm going to run my payment log one more time. Here is my new payment log, and when I scroll down to the bottom, my amount to disburse column is now 0, and that's what we want to see. You can see that due to the work that I have done, my cash amount is now lower than it was, and it now balances with my cash records. Isn't there some kind of warning to tell you that your check isn't dispersed? And the answer is yes, there is a warning, but you have to pay attention. To show you what this warning looks like, I'm going to add a new batch. So here I'm entering a new payment. You need to enter a check amount and a deposit amount. If you want to, you can skip over the check amount and enter the deposit amount, and then it will automatically make the check amount equal to the deposit amount. So you see I entered the deposit amount and tabbed over, and the check amount automatically filled in. However, if you do enter a check amount, it's easy to make a finger mistake. So here I've entered a check amount of $6,567.26, but I only made the deposit amount $5,567.26. So it's easy to make a mistake like that, especially when you're moving along pretty fast. There's nothing on this screen that will warn you. But when you go to edit payments, it's so important to view this report. Don't just go straight to posting your payments without reviewing it. Here's my warning. Whenever you are working on a deposit and you get this warning that says the check associated with this transaction was not fully dispersed, you should never post this batch. That tells you that there's something wrong, and if you post the batch, your payment log will be off, your cash will not balance. If I review my report here, I can see that the check amount is $65.67.26, but the amount going to his account is only $55.67.26. So remember, when you get this error, figure it out and fix it before you post your batch. If you're having trouble determining why you have that error, put in a ticket for the billing support team and do not post your batch until we can take a look. I'm going to go back into my batch, and I figured out that I made a typo in the check amount, so I'm just going to correct that, submit, and edit payments. My error is gone. I'm ready to post. Thank you for joining our webinar today. Please make sure and watch some of our other webinars, such as how to remove and reapply payments and how to take care of checks that are returned for non-sufficient funds. Thank you.